Fallout Podcast episode 68. Welcome, Living Leg End. It is a futile fall showdown of all 525 or 540, depending on how you count them, ultimate songs, etc., etc. Joined tonight by Monsieur Pippington Beard. It was the fault of the government. How you doing, Pip?
I've never felt better in my life.
Beautiful. And Lord Sage Temple, weeping, bilingually at least. How are you, Ezra?
The tears are strong and delicious.
Very good. And the T-Bone Pemberton Walker, owner of Rabid Dog Saving Fur for Tunnel.
Aye, all that stuff.
Is Tim Twa with us? You expected Aristotle Onassis, but instead you got Mr. James Fennings from Presswick.
Well, I've got the signal that he is there, but I have not read any of his content. I want it to be a delicious surprise.
Delicious. And me, three beers, my taste for bullshit reveals a lust for a form of office. And joined by, once again, for a second round, Modular Hobo in his extra large medium. Good evening.
Modular says likewise.
Very good. Now,
Yeah.
this being an audio podcast, I'm going to interpret what you did. Modular raised up. Modular is quite small and green, and he raised up, he or she, they raised to your ears and said something.
Yeah, it's Modular's an oversized pygmy.
Very good. Well, tonight we have the classical versus Mansion, Jerusalem versus Pinball Machine, Blindness versus Exploding Chimney. And given that we've now listened to all the songs from what we're referring to, the Era 3, we've got another early showdown, which is Tempo House versus Before the Moon Falls. Oh, random choice. What are you doing to us here? But first off, that least controversial of all fall songs, the classical. I think that's enough. Phil, you were the first up to be cancelled this evening. What are your opinions on this song?
Yeah, I've been waiting for this for a long time. It's an incredible tune. It's the opener, isn't it, of probably the most critically acclaimed album that they've got. It's a band that's in full swing of its talent. I think this is an example where Smithy's the poetry comes sung and screeched, doesn't it? And he's really honed down his kind of Wyndham Lewis blast style in this song. I think there's lots of sort of declarations being made, and it was on one of the later songs actually where I realised sort of what my thread was. I think for this episode, because I started off seeing these songs as a bit of a State of the Nation address by Mez, and then I thought, no, it doesn't actually feel like that. It feels more like when I in my younger days when I was forced to read the Bible, it reads like one of those lamentations from the Old Testament where you've got an old prophet just lamenting about how bad people are and how rubbish things have got. And then I thought, no, it's not even quite that, actually. This is like apocalypse literature. This is like the doom is coming, all your fault. That's why it's coming. And to me, I think that's the thread that runs through a lot of these songs today. I think it's like Mez's Northern Apocalypse literature. The music itself is incredible. Absolutely on top of the game. Brash, pompously titled music, deceptively complex, dripping with confidence. The guitar is incredible. It's wiry. There's a strummy looseness to it, but it hides very intricately pieced together arrangements. You've got at times it feels stripped down, but at other times it feels like Spectre's wall of sound is above you. It's incredibly epic song. Feels huge. They're definitely setting the stall. They're showing people what they've learned and also moving forward with it as well. So there is a bit of Ghosts of Christmas Past around some of this, but it's definitely progressing forward. And even I've made a note here about even the Bon-Tempi organ, so it's more like Erwin Schmidt smashing away in the background rather than the usual plinky plonk beat that we've got so far in the career. With regards to the sort of controversy about lyrics at the start, it is deliberately provocative. It is controversial, but I do think it's pertinent in terms of what he's lampooning, because he's lampooning tokenism in the music scene at the time, which I think is totally legitimate. So I would defend to the death his ability to sort of, express himself artistically about his issues. Where I do draw the line, though, is kind of the jokes that he made in promoting this around the whole kind of Motown stuff and all that kind of thing. I thought was just bad taste, really. But the actual music itself, I'd defend the hilt. This is one of the greatest moments.
Yes, I'll give my views on the music and the controversy a little later. But the Motown story, I believe, has hints of truth in it. But yes, I get where you're coming from in terms of like taste. So
it's very much, it's the kind of humour that you would hear in a pub. I think if you've got to draw the line somewhere, that's where I draw.
Exactly. Alf Garnett has had his day. Ezra, what do you make of the classical?
Well, it's pretty fucking fabulous. I mean, yeah, first of all, like, this was one of the first Fall tracks that I ever listened to, because Hex Induction Hour was the first Fall album I listened to. And it's the strength of this track, really, more than anything else, drug me into, like, following them as a group. Musically, it's just fucking off the hook. I was a teenager when I heard this, and I was like, this is just ridiculous, And one of the really interesting things in light of tonight's playlist, for me, it all seems to be a little bit political. Like there's a few tracks on here which are getting a bit political. And one of the really interesting things for me is that, he was really more often than not accurate and scathing in his broadsides at the entertainment industry. And this is maybe like the apex of that in some regards. And so, yeah, like, obviously, I completely agree with Phil about who are the obligatory N-bombs. It's like, I mean, I'm easily offended, and I have been offended by lyrics of Marky Smith's, but not by this one. I mean, I think it was clear pretty much from the get-go, because it's one of the lyrics that you can actually hear on the record. And again, with provocateur business, for me, one of the most accurate and like cutting indictments of my home country is the lyric, "You won't find anything more ridiculous than this new profile razor unit made with the highest British attention to the wrong detail. Become obsolete units surrounded by hail." Not only is that fucking beautiful wordsmanship, it's completely fucking accurate and remains so to this day. And the thing that interests me further is that now politics is basically a wing or a branch of the entertainment industry. That's why, like, this song is still relevant now, to my mind. Like, all the fucking shit he's prodding at is still absolutely true. And then we have the fact that he flips it and he does maybe what is to my mind one of the great Fall tricks, which is he just revels in it. And then you've got the late blooming chorus, "I've never felt better in my..." And it's just like, yeah. Like, I think that might be something that he kind of got from the Stooges, but he completely blows it up and on many tracks, but yeah, especially well on this track. So I think that's enough from me.
Indeed. I don't want to call it, but I think you'll have more chances to dig into this song, but we shall see. What does Mojo and Modular over there think?
Okay, Moho, you heard him. What do you say? Okay, so yeah, it's got a wee sniff of Brexit to it. It does have a touch of the daft, except the daft that's reduced to simplicity when it should be something much more complex and a lot of stomach gas. But then there's the twist, isn't it? Which is where the Pope is shitting in the woods, right? And when the Pope shits in the woods, he's been finger freaked in the woods. And when that happens, you got to say, "Hey, Pope, you're okay to talk about it, right? Because you're living proof of it and you're word up with it. But Pope, if you don't go that way, then you gotta shut your pie hole." Sorry,
exactly.
So the jive on that is Brexit. It is a Brexit theme song, isn't it? Right? You could just see this all plastered over the side of the bus. Hotel Amnesia In fact, that would be very well plastered. So it's Alf Garnett, right? That's the trouble here.
Yeah.
Where do we go forward with Alf Garnett? Yeah.
Hey, Pope, you're messing up the paintwork. That's all I can say. Get to clean your fingers before you come back at the vestry. But I think with this can all be cleared up by Alistair. Al, tell us about the classical.
Well, it fades out, doesn't it?
That means it goes on forever.
That's all I've got to say. No,
probably wise, to be honest, Al.
Yeah, a bit that then. We'll wait for the next round. The barbed wire fence for another few weeks.
So the bass groove is absolutely phenomenal. The tension that comes in between the bass groove and the guitar, and then it's been pushed along by those especially towards the end, just like drum fills galore. I think at one point there's both of them doing multiple drum fills at the same time. It's amazing. And Smith's punctuating it in a way. He does a lot, but this one feels like he's really dancing around it, and it made me think of a really good kind of soul. So it made me think of how James Brown approaches tracks like this. You could just imagine him dropping in, and then he comes in the home of the vein kind of stuff, and then he drops out for a little bit. He comes in with that Hotel Amnesia and a message for you. It's kind of like punctuated all the way through. But this being Smith, he's also dropping in these little monologues in the middle as well. Lyrically, absolutely amazing. Just a mosaic, destroying romantics behind every shell actor is raw power, stormier. There's too much romantics here. I destroy romantic actors, kill it. So, and the thing about the chorus, the riff comes in down, now every other songwriter in the world sings that line at that time. I am all over it. I cannot resist it. If I'm writing that song or singing it, I never felt right from the start. That's probably starting the song, to be honest, but it plays like 4 or 5 times before Smith even takes up the option. It's such a clever approach to the song. The only thing I'm going to weigh in on the controversy, because I do think you're spot on, Phil and Ezra, it does sound like he's calling out tokenism, and maybe in 1982 it rang differently. And I do think when they did it in 2012, he dropped that line. Elvis Costello used a similar sentiment at a similar time, and he doesn't perform that song at all now. And Smith just would never have addressed that issue again anyway. So he made his decision.
Also, Elvis Costello, sorry to butt in, but Elvis Costello is Eric Clapton of the punk era. I'm not talking about ideology there. I'm just talking about...
All right.
As in the Gorky's zygotic monkey reference to there's crap and there's Eric Clapton crap.
You can be self-indulgent or Eric Clapton indulgence. But yes, I wondered where you were going with that, Ezra, because Eric Clapton has said some rather unsavory things in his time as well. So there's many opinions on the internet. John Doran did a very good piece on it. If you want to hear his...
Who did, sorry?
So John Doran, who writes a lot of stuff for the Quietus, St. Helens lad. He writes a lot of stuff for the Quietus and does a lot of fall stuff. He's the one that interviewed him for that English Masters one, which is a really good interview. And he does express a myriad of opinions, especially on the classical. So does it more justice than me. What's Tim think of this?
Well, let's open the golden envelope and see what he scrolled. The classical. Other than that one line, which seems pretty unnecessary, a stone cold classic. Brutal and grinding with one of the best guitar sounds they ever achieved. I marvel at the production every time I hear anything from this album. They reached a level of perfection in how to record this sort of material with this album, in my opinion. Raw and bleeding.
Aye. Well, it's not up against a heavy hitter. This next song, Mansion, off this Nation's Saving Grace, has its charms, but let's say it's got its work cut out. Let's have a listen. that most unusual of things, the fall instrumental album track 2 in a row. Actually, we did one last week. But Ezra, what do you make of Mansion?
Well, for me, this is an interesting pairing because they're both the first track on a really good album. And there's a galaxy of difference between them. I mean, for me, yeah, I think the classical as an opening track on an album, the only album that I know of, maybe 2 albums that I know of that kind of equal that opening would be Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys and Ege Bamiasi by Can. And that's quite a personal subjective thing. But anyways, yeah, this track is, I really like it actually. And I really like that, it's kind of bookended at the end of This Nation's Saving Grace by Encroachment to Yarbles. And when you think about some of the tracks on the album, for me, it's kind of setting a kind of a theme of a kind of haunted house type scenario. And yeah, I feel like it's really excellent and perfect for the beginning, the opening to This Nation's Saving Grace. I feel like it's a criminal shame that some tracks from that album, such as LA and Gut of the Quantifier, maybe I'm not sure if What You Need went through or not, but yeah, though, I mean, Spoiled Victorian Child, okay, also good, but I would take those prior ones over that. So yeah, good stuff, but that's it.
And none of them went through, Ezra. Bombast is out, Barmy's out, What You Need is out, Spoiled Victorian Child, LA, Gut of the Quantifier, 2NK Roachment, Paintwork, and I Am Damo Suzuki. So far, My New House is the only one left.
And that speaks volumes to the quality of it, right?
Absolutely. But Mansion. What did the modules think of Mansion?
What? No, you weren't. Oh, really? Sorry. He said he was actually at the recording of this, and it wasn't the Fall. It was actually the Cure's roadies who played that. So you're making that up. I'm not. I can't vouch for this at all. But just go when he says it was the Cure's roadies playing that. Yeah.
It does sound plausible. Sounds absolutely plausible that that was played by Bill and Dave, the Cure's roadies. Tell us a little bit more about Modular. How did you come across this creature?
Oh, how did I meet Modular?
Yeah.
I was a walk in the woods. It was, I live in the mountains, and as you do, I came across, it was one night, I was outside, and it was this mist descended, and it was like something from a slasher movie. It was a full moon, and it was like, that's when I knew it's a water planet, and we're in the shallow end. And I kind of swam to the edge, and the next thing, this beautiful white deer appeared. That was a stag, and it kind of just walked through everything, and as it did, it dropped Modular Hobo, and that's how we met. So.
As in gave birth to it, or it was carrying it?
Was carrying, right? That's the only way I can describe it. It was carrying. As to which end it came out of, I'm not sure. But it certainly was carrying. And I have just kind of carried forth. I kind of felt sorry and immediately struck up a relationship. Usually much more chatty.
Yeah.
Can't shut him up, but a bit hoarse tonight.
As you said, he's a little horse. I'll dig into that more than we probably should, but you know what, like I say,
dig away, bring your own spade, right? Okay,
it's my effing podcast, so do whatever I want. Let's have what does Al think of Mansion though?
Yeah, it's like an intro, isn't it? I find it a bit dull to start with, and I don't think it really does Saving Grace much of a compliment, really. As it being the first song, it's probably one of the worst on there. It's okay, you know what I mean? And the bit that I really do quite like on it is the keyboards that sound like the theme for the Mysterons or something like that. That's pretty cool.
I think so. I think that's probably, I'm guessing, Simon Rogers who's on board for that, and he got that vibe. So it nicks pretty liberally from a Deviant song, Billy the Monster. I'll play you a bit of that. Can you hear that? Did I click the button?
Can't hear it.
Can't hear anything yet, mate.
Didn't click the right button.
Can't get the stuff nowadays.
Watch out, Billy, as you walk around. There's ugly people living underground. They'll defy.
What year is that?
Oh, I think it's 69, so early. So we all know what the Cure's roadies were listening to on that morning, don't we? What does Tim think of this song?
Oh, I'll look for you. He says, great stuff too and perfectly placed on the records. Not the classical though, so in the bit.
I know. Nice riffage. You know, I think it's Rogers and Bricks maybe getting together. And it has got that nice sci-fi vibe to it. And I do think even the NK Yarbles one is still light, but this is an instrumental. It's not going to go very far in this competition, I don't think, but it's time for a vote. We already know which way Tim's going for the classical, as am I.
Shall I tell you what I think?
Go on then. Oh, have you not told not told us about Mansion? Did such a great job on the classical. I thought you'd be tired. Go on.
It's well, yeah, but I'll keep it brief. It's spooky and eerie, but with like a sort of 60s vibe. This, isn't it? It reminded me of like a 60s TV show, like Randall and Kirk or something like that coming up. But yeah, I've written it's more Monster Mash than Spectre versus Rex to this one, isn't it? So yeah, I'm just echoing what everybody else has said, but it's passable, pleasant enough.
Yeah, let's not labour the point. So which way are you going with this, Phil? I think it's obvious, isn't it?
Classical.
Through this rigmarole. Ezra and any tiny horses we might have. What do you think? Good?
Classical.
Aye?
Oh, Modular says the Cure's roadies were always better than the Cure anyway. So he wants to go with the Mansion.
Very good.
Because it shows the palette of the Fall and just how diverse they could be, and they weren't a one-trick pony, no pun intended.
Exactly. Very, very good. I do hope he continues to make equine puns for the rest of the episode. That would be very good. But regardless of what the horses think, the offensive classical goes through. Regardless of what the horses think, the classical goes through. I'll edit that out. Why not? Jerusalem.
Regardless of what the horses think.
Regardless of what the horses think, the classical goes through. Next up, Jerusalem off Curious Orange, 1988, written by Marky Smith and William Blake. I'm coming to the medium and his saddle-bound pal first. What do you think over there in Mojo headquarters?
A gallant track, says he. A gallant to equivocate of Blake himself, yeah. New England's future. It's all there for the taking. The Nightmare, yeah.
Exactly. Land of Horses.
Yeah.
What about Alistair? Does he agree with those sentiments?
I don't mind Jerusalem, but you know, I quite like Curious Orange. Quite like the synths at the beginning of it, where it's all kind of like swirly Doctor Who kind of sci-fi sound to it.
Marsha,
but then
no doubt.
At the end with all the brass settings, that really was not nice. But you know, it's a nice rocking tune, and you know, the Blake stuff's all about Jeebus visiting that England and being very disappointed in the government. So you know, that's what it's all about. Crashed on his bike that his dad made him out of wood.
Very good. Wooden wheels. What will they think of next, Phil?
Scam.
Aye, very good.
Probably,
Phil,
I don't know if they have many bikes in Jerusalem.
And also the fault of the government. Philip, you're a regular Episcopalian. What do you think of this?
I loved it. I really loved it. I have heard it before this tune, but I'm not. It's off. I thought it was off that collection of singles. This one is it not like off her greatest hits collection?
It might be one of those A sides. I think it came out as a single, but it's on Curious Orange. The album.
Yeah, I've heard it before, but I really grew on me. And then I did the thing that I always do at the end, which is to kind of read the words to see what I'm missing, and it just made me laugh so much the kind of juxtaposition that he sets up. This sort of the tension between. I love the idea of Albion. I love the idea of, you know, the place we all come from has got this like spiritual heart about it, and we can kind of, you know, everybody's got daft stories to tell. The point is to have a daft story. It's not the fact that, you know, stories are all daft, but then to juxtapose it with somebody who's just whinging, basically, it's all the government's fault. As someone who has worked in local government, I know that everything is the government's fault because that's all anybody ever used to tell. So I found that all very, very funny. But I think the tune itself is quite interesting. It starts off with that like Blade Runner Vangelis type opening. So you're like, what the hell's this? It's all very futuristic. And then it goes into like a sort of Jubilee-inspired William Blake rendition, isn't it? It's Jubilee as in like the movie, you know, like punk Albion kind of vibes. I really like this. I really like this tune. It does a lot for me.
It's so a while back we talked about how if you're gonna crib from Blake, which he does several times this evening again. But if you're gonna crib from Blake, you're gonna either step up your game, which Smith strangely rarely does. He falters when he approaches Blake usually, or you do what he's done here, which is just filthy rants. The lyrics are: dog, pet dogs, rapacious wet dogs, owners of dogs, slow-witted dog owner of rabid dog, saving fur for tunnel, Eurodreamer civil liberation for dogs, secret society, inevitable nightmare, dog shit baby, bit-assed lick dog mirror, dead tiger shot and checked out by dog, big T-chest, fucker dog. Just nonsense, brilliant, and I know Ezra's.
In fairness, Brendan, that sounds like your.
Can I interject for a minute?
I'm just saying, Ezra's probably angry because I'm sure you were going to read all of those lyrics as well, right? Go ahead, Ezra.
No, because I thought that you'd split Dog Is Life apart because the YouTube clip is just the Jerusalem song.
I know, I messed up. Apologies. We'll put Dog Is Life in.
That was naughty of you, Brendan. That was naughty.
Well spotted.
Really
good.
Quite naughty of you.
It wasn't intentional, but once I'd done it, I thought I won't mention it. Anyway, the bits where the Jerusalem bits for me are the least interesting, where the dog is life stuff is where it gets funny. Although I do like the fact that he's whinging about it was the fault of the government. I fell over, I bumped my head, and now I want £1 million. Musically, though, it's like when those new metal bands cover Billie Jean. It's it's like, okay, so what they've done is they've taken this song and put it into kind of a new context, but it's much, much worse. So I like the original Jerusalem that William Blake wrote on his organ in his study by himself. And I don't like what they've done to it, but I do like the lyrics, especially all the stuff about dogs, which I sneakily didn't allow you to listen to this week. Ezra, what do you think of this song, Curious Orange? Now don't get confused, because there's another part called Dog Is Life. It's not connected. Definitely not forgotten about that. It's definitely going to come up in the next few weeks.
If you ever open on me with the gambit, don't get confused. You should know that you've taken the wrong first step. You should always approach me with the understanding that I'm already quite confused, tending toward very. But anyway. So yeah, the Jerusalem section for me, I think it's great. I love what Marsha's doing on the keys. I love that bold brass synth. Just the pom pom. Yeah, you can do that to me all night long. And the song is hilarious. Like if you read the lyrics, at least for me, if you read the lyrics divorced from the music, from the song and the performance of it, it's just like, what a load of shit. Like, of course, and this is the interesting thing for me is like Marky Smith's performance of politics, because at the time I think he was talking about how he was proud to vote Conservative, and if we fast forward a few years later, there's that great Channel 4 interview where he's being interviewed by Krishnan Guru Murphy in a pub with his wife Eleni sat next to him, and he starts complaining about immigrants.
Yes, he does.
And on the face of it, you're like, what a dog shit thing to say, what a dog shit person. But then you realize that he's being interviewed by Krishnan Guru Murphy, who is descended from immigrants, and also a F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T fan, which he would have known at the time, and being sat next to him is his Greek wife. And I don't know what how their arrangement went, if she had like an English visa or, but anyway, like essentially she was an immigrant. He's like bitching about immigrants. And it's the same for me when I listen to the song, because the way that he's inhabiting those like spiteful lyrics really just gives such an interesting like kind of edge of a tangent to them that for me is fucking good. So yeah, good track all in all. And that was just about the second half, because I wasn't thinking about Dog Is Life.
No.
So I know you have this habit of bisecting tracks and combining tracks, and it's frankly difficult to know where they end and begin anymore.
Good. If nothing else, I've achieved that. You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Smith must have escaped that by not many years. I can imagine during that interview, everybody else that wasn't Smith at that table was sitting with their head in their hands, just shaking their heads. But anyway, we're not here to talk about his views on anything other than whether or not Jesus spent some time in England around the turn of the 0th century, or whatever we call it. Phil.
You're doing very well, Brendan. You're doing very well. Nobody's throwing you a rope here, are they?
Phil, what do you think about that Krishnan Guru Murphy interview?
I thought it was very funny, to be honest with you. It's his usual MO, isn't it? It's he finds something that he can wind the interviewer up about, and he goes for it like an exocet missile. That was what my take on that interview was. With regards to the music, though, I think I've already told you. I think
I've no idea. Well, I've been.
Do you want me to tell you what Tim thinks?
That's right. That'll be good. That'll be helpful.
Mm-hmm. So Tim's put funny lyrics, but a bit of a waste of brilliant source material with a slightly bland delivery and a sort of naff prog rock sheen towards the end with the keys. It's all right, but could be so much more.
Indeed.
Indeedy-doo.
Stray Dogs are rabies time bomb is something that I will save for when we do Dog Is Life. As you know, right now, this was just the part of the song that was Jerusalem and not the dog bit. Has everybody said something? Hopefully most of it isn't going to get edited out. Moving on to what it's up against, which is Pinball Machine, the final track of Seminole Live that we haven't covered yet, and everything else has gone through. Everything of Seminole Live has gone through.
I'm an old road hog. I drove a big truck, shot the pinball machine, but it brought me bad luck. If oceans was whiskey and I was a dog, I'd dive into it and never come home. I wish they'd outlaw them old pinball machines. Many weeks they have caused me to live on sardines.
Very nice. So, as I said, it is the final song that we're going to look at off Seminole, and so far the other 4 songs, Deadbeat Descendant, HOW, Squidlaw, and Mollusk in Tyrol, has gone through. So no pressure here, lads. And just want to point out, Alistair, they're both covers. So what do you think, Alistair, of this song, Pinball Machine?
It's a Lonnie Irving tune.
It is.
Dead Pogsy sounding, especially like with the banjo, and like Smith's vocal delivery. I can imagine that fine Mr. McGowan doing something very similar. But what I'd really like to hear them covering, if they were going to do, I've a crack at some nice sort of Cajun stuff, like Drunkard's Blues by Louis Cornier. That'd been a really good cover for him to do. I think Smith had nailed that one. Or anything by the Balfour Brothers. It's just the kind of like vocal delivery that they have in a lot of those songs. But it's just like a dead sort of like competent cover. Don't really sound too much like the Fall. Does sound like a different band.
Yeah, yeah, we agree pretty much. It is a faithful cover, generic banjo track. Through the Fall filter sounds like the Pogues. That's what I say. And I think Shane McGowan would do a good job of it. It's a very sad song about a man who neglects his family for a truck, for the life on the road. Shall we have a bit of a listen to the original, Alistair?
Brendan, let's do that.
All right, let's do that. Goes on for a little bit at the beginning.
Piece of good apple pie. Oh, I drove a big truck, I shot the pinball machine, but it cost me bad luck. But all I ever made in a pinball machine, I'd get 4 catty cornered, then I'd miss the 16.
Normally, when we listen to covers, often I do prefer the original. And although clearly the Fall have mangled this, I think they do a pretty good job actually. And I think Smith tells the story in a really nice way. I like it a lot. But what does the hobo think of it? If we can still use that term,
yeah. Context. Lonnie Irving, 28 when he died, and not much else happened after this. This, it was a tragic story. So leukemia, and I think it's one of those kind of like, here's a guy who worked all his years as a truck driver and then gives it up to finally reach his dream, and then it dies as soon as it comes to light. Only has one song and then immediately dies. So it's like it's a weird inverted kind of rock and roll story. It's not the sex, drugs, all that shit. It's the life, and that hence it's got that real sense of the hillbilly to it. There's you get the hillbillies, a lot of them are working class folk, and always were, and so it's for me he taps into that beautifully with it. There's this Hobo saying he doesn't want my opinion. Sorry. Anyway, that's what Hobo was saying anyway. Context to that.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Yes.
I'll shut up. So
yeah, I was thinking that too, to be honest. It's like we brought the horse on, not you, medium. But what does Ezra think? He's been he loves this kind of hillbilly music.
This is definitely a song, and songs I like are essentially the same as the movies I like, and the movies I like are the ones where everyone dies at the end, and everyone dies at the end of this song. So therefore, I think it's great. And I think the original's also great. And I think the way that this cover maybe improves on is the wrong word, but develops, is that it actually sounds like it's in a bar with a karaoke machine going, which would be Marsha Schofield in the rhythm section. And then some dude's playing his banjo, and drunk Mark is drinking the blues. And so thumbs up from here.
Well, maybe something unheard of is on the cards. Why don't you rain on our parade, Phil Rugby, with your love of the old-timey? What do you make of this?
Well, I am not on the same page as you guys with this song. I wrote most of my notes involve the word twang, twangy, twang, twang, twangy, twang, 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 twang. I too have written the word Pogues, but for me this time it's the keyboard's turn to be lost and aimless on a track. It's just wandering around. Doesn't really know where it's going or have anywhere to go at all. The Live on Sardines line is fun.
Phil, it's an impressionistic wash of karaoke.
Well, when you said that, actually, I had flashbacks.
That's high-level synth playing.
Well, I had vision. I had memories of when I walked around Liverpool on a Friday afternoon, and there were drunks singing karaoke in all the pubs. And it does have that vibe. It has that Celtic folk vibe, doesn't it? Of mournful, drunken blokes, sort of lamenting lost loves. I get it. I get what you guys are saying. It's not my bag. It's not sounds I like. It's interesting hearing the original. And it does sound slightly better than the original, I'll give you that. But it's this ain't my wheelhouse, baby.
Shitting on everyone there, aren't you?
This is my job.
I think Tim's going to really finish it off, isn't he? What does he think of this?
Deep breath. Utter shit.
Yeah, as I thought. It's going down to the wire, isn't it?
But sorry, cut in. But strangely, though, the Jerusalem, does it not remind you of the white dog turds you used to find around council estates in the early 80s in the UK?
Yeah, that was from hash content in the dog food, and they cut all the hash content out, and you don't see any more white dog shits now.
Okay,
right there. Yeah,
brilliant. Do you
That's
think
the first interesting fact that's happened on this podcast. I think we should commemorate it.
very much? Bravo. But let's take a vote.
It
It is
can retire.
Jerusalem versus Pinball Machine. I am going for Pinball Machine. Which way are you going, Ezra?
Yeah, obviously, Pinball Machine.
Beautiful. What's Modular Towers? What is the opinion over
Extra ball. It's a pinball.
there?
Machine. Yeah.
Tim's made his idea very clear, as have you, Philip. So I think it's coming down to Alistair. Going Pinball Machine or Jerusalem?
I'm going Jerusalem. I think it's less of a cover.
No, it's very much not. But let's go. I'll allow you to. I'll let you split your vote. No,
Yeah.
won't hold it against you.
Yeah.
All right then. Fingers it is. So up to 3 points for Jerusalem. Now, the horse has no fingers, but he can clop his heels however many times he believes. Okay, very good. Keep your fingers up because I was distracted by the upturned landphibian. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And what does Tim think for Jerusalem?
Tim?
For Jerusalem?
2.
All right, so that gives it 12 points. And then we are going for Pinball Machine. Out of 3. Okay, 3, 6, 9, 10. And he's given it 0.
Yeah, yeah.
So that means Jerusalem sadly goes through. So, whatever.
Yes. Hang on, let's gloat a bit more. Yeah.
So, continuing with the political streak, we have Blindness from the year of our Lord 2004. Fall heads rolled.
Flat is evil. Welcome.
A living leg end. Phil Rigby, coming to you first. Blindness. Jules Holland's
it's
favourite.
bass, isn't it? That bass sound is absolutely amazing, and when it mixes in with the synth as well, I think they do that raw trick that they managed to pull off way more than anybody else really has the right to. But making digital and analog just sound beautiful together. I think they absolutely nail that. And then that intro, that tasty EQ drop, or it comes in properly, very nice bits of production going on. And then we get Mark launching in with his dropping a turd in the punch bowl opening lyric, walking down the street the other day. Yeah, come on, Mark. This is a decent tune. What are you pulling your pants down for this? But it does improve as soon as he's hit that low spot, which you can't help but think he's perhaps got his tongue in his cheek when he's saying it. Very nice drawl, mystical some things that he's shouting about. Nice half shout, half falsetto, sort of final finale to it all. The keyboard sound great all the way through. Really good workhorse performance from the bass and the guitarist. Pretty sure I heard a little bit of Mez beatbox before that bass run comes in, which is quite interesting. Never heard that before. What else have we got going on there? Yeah, very playful, I thought, with Mez actually all the way through this. And if it's not a bit too much tail eating itself, it kind of reminds me of Mogwai a bit. It's got that sort of intense, sort of structured build up to it all. I think I spotted a Bill Hicks line in there as well, where he talks about non-smokers dying every day. The other thing that I thought whilst I was listening to this as well is it's like you've got the whole, to quote Football Managers, you've got the whole band working 110% on everything. Everybody's doing a really, really good job. But at the end of the day, in the round of it all, I still think Mez is doing the heavy lifting on this track. It's a long track and it stays interesting because of what he's doing. Musically, it just kind of gets geared up and goes for it. But I think Mez really does keep it interesting. He's doing lots of variation on his vocal style, all kinds of weirdness going on. band, so I can totally understand why the band wanted to open the album track.
But he didn't let him.
You know.
Ezra, what do you make of Blindness, the song?
The song is actually my safe space. Every time I'm walking down any street, I've got this song going on in my head, and yeah, oh god, I actually think this is probably the best track the Fall ever did. Like, I think that like if they hit this hard in their later career as much as they did on this track, then rock and roll would have just become completely redundant. Like, I think this is an insanely great track. I just love, and I don't think he puts us foot wrong. You know, like the whole thing, the music is a masterclass in perfect dynamics, and there are 3 versions of this track done in studios. You know, like there's the maybe 4 actually, but there's the pure session and there's an alternate version, and they're all equally fucking just raw power, just perfect and hilarious. And I'll go on a bit of a tangent here, because there was this really nice thing, this really nice mix from, I think it was PC and Strictly, the Cold Cut guys, or the Cold Cut adjacent guys, and they did this mix where it was basically a kind of you know, musical historiographical kind of mix. And you know, kind of the climax of it all was that, like, it was Kylie Minogue taking the New Order track sample for Can't Get You Out of My Head, and you know, like this mix is interspersed with Talking Heads, and like, so this guy's like saying, yeah, no, this was such a pleasing kind of moment from a historical perspective. And for me, this track is also that, because you know, they basically copied the bass line from Witness the Fitness by Roots Maneuver, one of the best British MCs.
Yeah,
real fucking killer. And that song in and of itself is one of the best fucking hip hop tracks ever, you know. And they probably weren't aware of it, but Witness the Fitness, Roots Maneuver, or whoever was producing him, actually copped that from the Doctor Who theme. And so to me, you know, like, I didn't know that when I first fell in love with this song. Like, that's just an extra layer of fucking brilliance on this, is that it's this perfect flip side British culture. You've got like the Delia Derbyshire Doctor Who theme melting into Witness the Fitness by Roots Maneuver, melting into Blindness by the Fall. And yeah, for me, actually more so than the classical here, like, Marky Smith has really got his James Brown fucking shoes on, and I think that he just fucking hogs the, like, I don't even feel like he flubs at all. I think it's just perfect. I said, hey, Blood Man, have mercy on me. It's real testifying shit, man. Great.
Brilliant. Why don't we have a listen to Witness the Fitness, because it is a top-notch tune, and they do they straight up admit to copying it. If you read any of the interviews or whatever, they're not trying to hide that.
Well, well, well. Well, well. Well, well, well. Taskmaster burst the bionic zit splitter. Breakneck speeds, we drown 10 pints of bitter. We lean all day and some say they ain't productive. Could that depend upon the demon that you're stuck with? Cause right now, I see clearer than most.
Brilliant. I've not heard of him for quite a bit of time, but he had his moment, Roots Maneuver, and the video that's funny is because at the beginning it talks about how he entered every race in his primary school sports day and came last in all of them. So the video is all about him training hard for
payback.
Yeah, payback time. It's great. What does the little horse think of this song?
Modular Hobo is saying Time Lords again, and which incarnation of the Time Lord? Bass, brilliant, right? Absolutely driving, propelling, well produced. It's got that tension. It's got the razor blades. And yet, is it intentional tonight? The kind kind of Christian theme. You know, we go from Jerusalem to Calvary, and it is the witness, isn't it, on the cross? But living leg end. You know, I like it's a fumble, but it works, and he makes it up. Yeah.
Aye. And there's the Henry Cow album that says something about leg end as well, I think. So I think he's copped that maybe. But yeah, I mean, in many ways, we're all witnesses for Christ, aren't we, Phil?
I was just saying, have you heard Rich Manuma's version of Yellow Submarine?
I have not.
That's brilliant.
That might be why we've not heard of him for a few years. We started doing children's songs.
I tell you what, right, we talk about cover versions a lot on here, but his version of Yellow Submarine is brilliant. I strongly recommend it. I've told you what I think of this song.
You've already told me, however. Alistair, what do you reckon to Blindness?
Very little I can add to it, but, you know, from what's been said already. It's good walking music, isn't it? You know. But yeah, Blindness, small village near Loch Ness. Jimmy Shan used to go walking his dog there.
Very nice. Apparently it is.
Facts tonight, isn't he?
I would doubt the I would check that one before you went ahead.
Because you're a doubter. It's because you're a skeptic.
Booked a holiday.
Let me tell you what Tim says though, because Tim's more positive.
All right, go on then. What does he think of Blindness?
He's put stunning track, and one of my great memories of the band live was seeing them play this at Julie's. Just monumental. I love the nuance in the vocal, the sort of plaintive, raspy whelping. The moment when the guitar and synth sync up and play out in the last minutes is great. F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T session is even better.
Yeah, again, not much more to add, I think, other than those resin synths, the distorted bass, and it's just pulsing. And Spencer Birtwistle, who's the drummer, is credited with the song. And I know we liked his Birtwistle Girl in Shop, which is a little bit earlier than this, but it'd be interesting to know how much of it was already in place, because like it is just that bass line, really, holding it together. I'm sure Hanley would have loved to. Maybe they'll steal it for their new fake Fall band.
Offensive.
I am offended that the original member of the Fall is playing music again.
How dare they?
How dare they? Offended. No, brilliant. And he does the melody from Chicago Now, which is like 12 years old at that point, and he does that. Do you work hard, right? He brings it back. It is relentless. Calvary, the flat is evil, blind man, have mercy on me. Apparently it was set off by him seeing a big poster of David Blunkett, which clearly doesn't exist. He just made that up, but anyway, whatever. It's good. Jules Holland likes it. If you Google the Fall, you're going to get either that live show in Oslo where they play Blindness, or you're going to get Jules Holland playing Blindness. But we have to take a vote now, do we? No, we don't.
No, we Exploding don't. Chimneys.
Oh, we're taking forever, aren't we? Exploding Chimney now.
Yeah, I'm outside in my vicinity. I got rat poison in my vicinity. I am beyond redemption. And my chimney is exploding. My chimney is exploding.
So Mercy before and now Redemption. I gotta say, I really like this song, and it is not like, what are the odds of it coming up against such a big number in this half? I mean, there's so much shit. How couldn't it got up against the Age of Chang? But that lovely wobbly bass, and just like the last one, the interplay between the instruments is wonderful. And Greenway is like, so when I think of Imperial Wax, I think of all those meaty pub ones, 50-Year-Old Man and Wolf Kiddleton. Much as I like those, like Alton Towers, Exploding Chimney, Is This New? That side of the album that I didn't know as much, I really really like that stuff. And this one has a very similar break to Is This New? It has that same kind of breakdown in some way, but nice, riffage, dirty, noisy. And when it breaks down, it's just got the kind of rim shots going on, and there's the wobbly kind of synth in the background. Brilliant. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. But what does Alice think? That's what's really important here.
I don't love it quite as much as you do, Brendan. It's
all right, maybe I will move on then. What does Ezra think? Go on, Al, sorry.
Yeah, it just sounds a bit recycled, rehash, not like massively original. Some all right structure in there, the trem sort of reverby guitar's quite nice. Synth's all right. But I don't know, it's lacking something for me.
That's all right, my friend. We can still get along together. It's all right. Don't hold it against you. What does Ezra think?
Yeah, this is a great track. I love the fact that, the first time I listened to it and I was reading the lyrics, and he's talking about having herpes, scabies, and AIDS, and he's got rat poison in his workshop, but then his chimney's exploding. So actually he's doing all right. I mean, I don't think I've heard such a sexy song from the Fall. For me, it's very sexy. I mean, there's rat poison in my vicinity and I've got an exploding chimney. That sounds like the kind of thing that I would write to a young lady on a dating app.
It's quite right.
Very good.
I question, Ezra. Maybe you can help me on this. It's been a while since I've been in the game. But if someone was riddled with herpes, scabies, and AIDS, are they the kind of person that wants to go around with their chimney exploding?
Well, that was obviously the decision he's made.
He started the evening with questionable decisions, and he's continued. He's nothing if not inconsistently consistent. What does what about the little horse? Can I ask you, equestrian? What do you think of this song?
Certainly. Beastie Boys at their best. Strangely reminiscent of Check Your Horse Head. The bass line that's constructed by the lead cable coming in and out of the amp. And then you have that wobbly breakdown where it kind of, what's going on here with, that kind of polyphonic thing the Beastie Boys were good at that point. And equally kind of poppy punk kind of stuff, you're right? They were about. So very kind of malevolent television friendly. Yeah.
What's another name for pirate treasure?
It's booty. Right, yeah.
I call it booty. Anyone else? I can't remember. Phil.
That kind of party.
Exactly. Phil, have you told us what you think of Exploding Chimney?
No, I have not told you what I think of Exploding Chimney yet. But do you know what? I am in agreement with you, Brandon.
Oh.
This is a fab song. Do you know what? I actually thought it sounded a bit like Mel Banana at the start. I think some of the guitar work on this is
some bits like that, yeah.
Were you the same person who earlier said it sounded like Mogwai?
Yeah.
You're on one tonight. You're way out there in a limb. I think this sounds like it's a bathtub shitter B-side.
Listen, mate, I just tell my truth. That's all I'm doing. I can just fighting the power.
Keep the faith, brother.
Yeah, I really like this. I was a bit unknown to me, this song. When the first couple of times I listened to it, I was like, why have I not listened to give this track a bit more time? It's great, and it is the guitar. I think that makes it all the way through. The production on the guitar is brilliant. And where is this Greenway on the other records? A bit more of this, please. It's absolutely fantastic. I like the weird breaks in it. I think the sort of shift from buzzed up. I mean, it's a bit Hives, isn't it? I think I'll reference them a few weeks ago. It reminded me a bit of them. It's like, it is pop punk, but it's done so well, and there's loads of imagination going on with it. There's loads of energy and playing and stuff. So yeah, I've liked this more and more. Every time I've heard it, I thought it's a great little tune.
One of my headphones is broken, so I've been listening to everything through the right channel. So I imagine you've all been listening to some kind of pop punk hit, and I've just been listening to the noise stuff that's on pan to the right. Like, yeah, this is brilliant. And then put the other ear in it, it's just like doom doo doo doom doo 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 doom. What's Tim think?
I'll tell you. He says, great track, scuzzy synth-punk pop, danceable and infectious. The dropouts of the guitar are brilliant too. It would win against a lot of other stuff for me, but ...
But it's going in the second chance bag almost certainly. But let's take a vote. Let's go through that rigmarole. Which way are you going, Phil?
I really like Exploding Chimney, and I've got a sneaky feeling if I gave it a bit longer, it would probably edge Blindness. So I'm going to go for Chimney. Actually.
Interesting. Alistair?
I'll go for Blindness.
I thought as much. Ezra?
It's my safe space.
That street. We all need a street like that. We all need a shady lane, don't we? What about the modular one?
Never endorses any kind of poison that's used on animals, but Exploding Chimney. Yeah.
Ooh, very interesting. Because I am also going for Exploding Chimney.
Ooh, there we go. Interesting.
Tim's not though, is he? So it don't matter.
You're going for Blindness.
Okay, so Blindness goes through, Exploding Chimney goes into the second chance bag, where it has pretty much no chance unless I cheat, which I'm thinking about doing. What about moving on to the last showdown? Now, as explained, we've done all the Era 3 songs. Those are the ones that were recorded between 1994 and 2001. So we have a second set of songs from 77 to 85 to round up this evening. And the first one's going to be Tempo House, recorded live at the Hacienda. Ezra, Tempo House, an expansive piece of bass, heavy meandering.
Yeah, this is, there was always this thing that I had with Perverted by Language, where I would be listening to it and at some point I would drift off. And I've come to the conclusion that this is the track that made me go and get that cup of tea, so to speak. And it's been interesting kind of listening to it, because listening to it, I was like, oh my God, definitely Flipper enjoyed The Fall, because it sounds so much like Flipper. And there's this really nice Flipper song called If I Can't Be Drunk, I Don't Want to Be Alive. And to me, those two songs are quite reminiscent. But yeah, this song, personally, this song just does torpor me out. And it's interesting because, on the album, it's followed by the Streifen Knot, the Hexen Knot. And for me, that song is sick as fuck. And this song maybe achieves what it set out to do a bit too well, if you know what I mean.
I do indeed. And it achieved it perfectly, but also too well. What does the modular one think?
The Working Man Club, Jim Morrison. It's one of the end. It's kind of just, it's snaking. It's one of those meandering full tracks. But it's about British Telecom, perhaps, is it? So I'm going to hang up on this one. Yeah.
All right. I'd sing Solitaire for the BEF, but who wants to be them anyway? Snow on Easter Sunday, Jesus Christ in reverse. Alistair?
Yeah, I love this one. It's one that I've been familiar with for many a year. I love the way it's it's really spacious. Takes ages to build up to the chorus, but when you get there, there's some nice payback. Shanley's doing his best or close to it, that groove along with the two drum lineup, the very kind of like Botto Surfers feel to it, I kind of think. Some memorable lyrics, keyboards played in the style of Little Frank's Head, and loads of lovely feedback. What's there to complain about there? Granted, there's not much guitar in there, which I think adds to the spacious feel of it. And it also, it's got a bit of a dubby quality to it.
If you watch so so the version on 30-bar language is from the Hacienda live
Yeah, I did
recording.
the whole thing. Brilliant, isn't it? It's about, well, it's a full set, isn't it? It's you can get that on YouTube.
Yeah, and if you watch the version, Scanlon doesn't play. I mean, he bangs his guitar a couple of times, and that feedback's probably coming from his amp, but he doesn't play anything. He's singing, and he just stands there for 7 minutes while Hanley is really going for it. It's really good. And it never struck me until I realized it with the video on that there is no guitar and there's almost no keyboards, and it's Smith playing the keyboards, and he does bang it a couple of times and then walk away. So it is essentially about 8 minutes of Burns, Hanley, and Hanley just pummeling away at this riff, which is like a half-speed version of the classical riff. What a goddamn groove. But yeah, it's really 8 minutes long. That's your live centerpiece. Brilliant, though. And apparently, this is from the annotated fall from the book Paintwork. Smith voted conservative. There's a lot of Jesus Christ and conservatism popping up for this evening, which is very nice. But the Labour Party candidate's antics had incensed him so much. I used to call him Jesus Christ in reverse, explained Smith, because some fascist had pinned him up. He had marks on his hands, which he used to show everyone. And in Labour meetings, he used to stand up, take out rotting fish, and say, "What about the Grimsby fishermen?" A complete charlatan. Don't really know what Tempo House is about. If it is about calling British Telecom, that does make no sense. And of course, the one about the Dutch reaping in 4 languages is funny. So nothing else. There's that. What about Tim? What does he think of Tempo House?
So he's got the weakest track on Perverted by Language, but still brilliant despite that. It's rhythm section and pulpit stuff. I'd love to know where they didn't. I'd love to know why they didn't do a studio version. I think the best bit is the keyboard scree that breaks out at one point. I think the problem for me is the complete lack of tension. There's no tight build and release, just constant onward motion.
Yeah, I think there's that. It works for me. I don't need that tension. I think that's just, that groove is enough for me, but I get it. I can see why maybe some people would think it doesn't do enough. But what about you, Pip? Does it do enough for you?
Yeah, I can understand why some people might find it a bit too sparse, but I'm with you and Al, really. I really like this. I have done as well. It was on that very first mixtape that I got given a F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T. It's one of them tracks that's been with me right from the beginning. So, and whilst I do get where Ezra's coming from, as in the track to go and make a cup of tea, I kind of get that. I really like the lurching, bit uncomfortably slow tempo that it's all got about it. I find that quite attractive, even though with other bands it doesn't work for me the same. It's like Parliament, they're famous for being a bit too slow, aren't they? And I've never really got onto that. But the lyrics of this, I spent a little bit of time reading through this last night and having a look on the annotated file and seeing what they said about it, because I've heard it so many times, and the only lyric that really stuck in my head was the weeping in 4 languages on a line. There is something, the lines about Burton to me seem key in sort of unlocking what he's on about with this tune, and he seems to be punning a little bit with Burton, doesn't it? Some of it seems to be a reference to the Welsh actor, and some of it seems, to my ear, seems like a bit of a reference to the Explorer as well. I think it's another one of those kind of lamenting tracks where he's juxtaposing people who are adventurous and want to make something of life, as opposed to those people who just want to play it and, grouse to Tempo House, which I think is where he's getting at with the chorus. So I think it's pretty similar to some of the other tunes we've done tonight in terms of what he's on about. But yeah, musically and performance-wise, I love this tune, right? And I get into this vibe very, very easily.
Well, it's up against Before the Moon Falls, which is really, really quite different, but delightful in its own way. So let's have a listen to the song from 1979's Dragnet LP.
We are private detectives on and back from a musical pilgrimage, work under the name of the F.A.L.L.O.U.T.P.O.D.C.A.S.T. Who would suspect this? It is too obvious. Our office is secluded. Those there to suspect would not see the wood for the trees. We were 6 like dice, but we're back to 5. Up here in the north, there's no wage packet jobs for us, thank Christ. While young married couples discuss the poverties of their self-built tracks and the and more cash. We spit in their plates and wait for them ice to melt.
Hatted out just before he cribs Blake again. But last track of the evening, let's go over to Hobo Mansions and see what the little modular one thinks.
Modular is saying this is everything you could want in a full song, really. It just drips and hurts, and we've got the power, must not misuse it, because life is short and full of thought, and I will forever end this reign of terror. Brilliant, yeah. That's just that's what you want from people up north with no wage packets, right?
Indeed, it's grim up there.
Yeah.
What does the modular horse, does he do like a show or go out and about, or does he just kind of live in your house?
Well, this is the first time he's been here in a while.
Oh.
I just happened to mention that this was happening tonight, and he had stepped in and sort of said, right, heads up, give us a go.
Roll, yeah.
Yep. So when he's around, he's around. When he's not, he suits himself. Right. Seems to come and go with the moon,
Nice, but he doesn't have like a Twitch channel or anything that we can like subscribe to and watch him play video games.
Not that I'm aware of.
If you find out,
yeah,
it's him and Limmy. Just watch that all day.
I believe there is an OnlyFans and stuff.
Oh la la! Sign me up, Alistair. What do you think of Before the Moon Falls?
That's a beautiful little thing, isn't it? It's very dark sounding, broody. In a way, it reminds me a little bit of some of the early Perubu stuff. But yeah, it's a massive progression from Witch Trials. But yeah, you got like a middle 8 bit that actually does sound like something from Witch Trials. That's kind of like stuffed in there. It's like a bridge middle 8 kind of bit where it speeds up. Yeah, that gets very witchy. And the last bit, and it just sounds like somebody twatting the fuck out of a PV amp, which is again one of the best noises you can get using a guitar.
Using a PV amp is a great thing. Horrible.
Indeed. What does Philip Rigby think of Before the Moon Falls?
Do you want me to tell you?
Please do.
Everything's sinister wonderfulness with this. I think it's absolute fab. I think again the riff construction is brilliant in it.
Riff construction.
I was thinking last night. It's the kind of modal. What's the right word? Modal intervals that like Slayer would be proud of with that riff, but take all the distortion off it, and it's like it makes it more sinister. It makes it more creepy. And then I was listening to the drums as well. It's got a weird sort of seems to be switching between a motoric sort of beat and then to a more kind of standard, even like Stephen Morris maybe kind of Joy Division type beat. More Blake, more anarchism, more sort of political, artistic, religious kind of riffing that he's doing with the words. Yeah, that middle 8 is a really odd one, isn't it? It's like you're getting mugged by a sherbet dip. It's like weird bit of pop sweetness in the middle of it that then it's like blink and you miss it though, and then the back on was this kind of really doomy kind of riffing. My only criticism of it is that it might be too earnest for its own good at times, but given a young VR at the time and how sort of second album stuff, yeah, amazing, great stuff.
I don't care for that jangly break. Yeah, about 3 minutes in, I don't think it. When you compare it to the fact they just the previous song is 8 minutes of a single bass line and it works perfectly. They didn't need that break. This is beautiful. Lo-fi, paper thin, very monochrome as well, as with most of the Dragnet stuff. I think the only thing for me is it does I've listened to it every time this week after Tempo House, and it feels light because of that. But it is wonderful. It's all mood, just like they set that mood beautifully, malevolent and wonky. And Smith's kind of ranting and mumbling in this kind of weird in-between way. And then, that beautiful opening like segment of lyrics. We are the private detectives onwards back from a musical pilgrimage. We work under the name of the Fall. Who would suspect this? It is too obvious. Our office is secluded. Those there to suspect we would not see the wood for the trees. I could go on. It is beautiful. Love it as well. Lots of love this evening. Ezra, what's this one do for you?
Well, I was concerned because I know there's a certain bias against those kind of sustained guitar chords amongst the guitarists in this group.
It's how they're used. It's how they're used.
As a non-guitarist, I mean, whenever I play a guitar, I just play the sustained. I think it's beautiful. It's like a stained glass window. That's how I feel. That's what I think. Time that I'm playing sustained chords, like falling into a sustained glass window, and all that dyed glass is flying around and cutting into my skin. And yeah, you know, like I feel like this track, like Blindness, is like prime testification. It's MC5 grade, proper business. You know, before the tide subsides. Yeah, to be honest, this is my favorite track off Dragnet. I think it's fucking great.
It is brilliant, and I mean, if we're looking at Dragnet, it is definitely up there. Spectre versus Rector, I still think for me, yeah, outdoes it considerably. But and I'm probably a Figure Walks, to be honest. But it is a top-notch track. But this was very, very hard for me. This is a very tough decision, and I rue myself for putting myself in this position and not being able to get out of it like I was in earlier rounds. I'm trapped. Which way shall we go? What does Tim think? He told
Sodomized by presumption.
In many ways, that's the best way for it to happen. What does Tim think?
I'll tell you. I'm going to tell you what Tim says, whether you like it or not. In a strange way, this is a better version of Tempo-House. Fairly locked in groove-wise, but much more variation to build and release tension. One of the highlights of Dragnet. Love Mez's little fake chuckle. Drumming-wise, it sounds more like L.A.T.W.T. What's that one?
Live the Witch Trials.
Live the Witch Trials.
Yeah,
well done. That one.
It was good that we all left a pause, because when I edit it, it'll be like he answered instantly. But actually, listeners, there was like a 30-second pause while we all tried to work out what that meant.
We're getting old now.
What could it be? Anyway, let's take a vote. Let's take a vote. I'm going to the tiny four-legged creature first. Al, what do you think?
Okay.
Modular Hobo, what do you think?
Modular Hobo says, complexity is the fine delight that fathers thought. Modularity leaves yet the mind a mother of immortal song. Therefore, it is the moon before the moon that falls.
Before, during, and after the moon. What about Ezra? Which way are you going?
Yeah, before the fucking moon falls.
Easy, innit? Easy. Alistair.
It's fucking easy.
I'll go with Tempo-House because it sounds like the place that you used to go to sign on.
Right. Oh, what was that called down the bottom of King Street?
Near the bus station. Or the other one.
Oh, the other one. Down the bottom of King Street. Yeah, we're younger. We're older than you, Phil. We were signing on several years before you.
It was all what your surname was, wasn't it? If it was after your surname was or after, you had to go down the opposite station.
Right. Wigan facts galore this evening. Philip, which way are you going?
I am weeping in four languages with Tempo-House.
Oh, which way is Tim going? He's going for moon.
I think you've set these up deliberately anyway, so it knocks all the Dragnet out. I think you because you are a cult like that.
I am, but Dragnet is one of my favourite albums. Let's have a peek at what's gone through. Can you remember what's gone through from Dragnet so far?
Not much. I seem to remember stuff getting pinged off. Rector's gone through, hasn't it?
Got a good chunk. Psychic Dancehall, Figure Walks, Dice Man, Mazursky's Daughter, Flat of Angle, Spectre versus Rector, all gone through. So far, it's mostly been the dross that's gone out. Put Away, Chock Stock, Your Heart Out, Print Head, they've gone out. Before the Moon.
In my area, should never have gone out.
Yeah,
Garbage.
Do you want me to tell you which way Tim's gone?
Yes, please.
He
already know. Moon. It's gone for Moon. It's obvious. Context lad, innit? Well, I'm going for Tempo-House, so you're lucky I don't give myself double points. Let's go to the fingers. Out of 3, Tempo-House. How many?
I'm going for By Far the Moon Falls, by the way.
I knew that one. Knew that. Easy.
Okay.
Easy. 3 and 3.
Fingers.
We're going to the fingers. Tempo-House first. Come, that's ridiculous. I'm going to ban you from this, Ezra, from now on. You're banned.
Tactical voting from you, man, though.
Voting irregularities 3, 6, 7, 8, 9. What's
Hey,
Tim
that's a
given?
political vote.
There was a fucking hanging Chad there.
What's Tim given?
For tempo, he has given 2.
All right, that's 11. I bet you can guess what me and Phil and Alistair will be giving to Before the Moon Falls. Out of...
Hey, that's cheeky.
Oh, is it? Is it, my friend? Listen, you're playing with the big boys now. Before the Moon Falls, out of 3.
Do we need to vote? Do we need to vote for this one?
I'm also giving it 3 because I love it. I love it. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. It's 1. Before the Moon Falls 1. Rightly so in many ways. It's a great track. But I do love me some Tempo House. You know what? I'm going to go and listen to it now. So bye. The end.
Yeah.
Thanks, Modular Hobo and his extra large medium. You did a sterling job. We will sign up for all of his social media shenanigans in the forthcoming months. And
he's off social meds, from what I've heard.
Okay.
So he's just on the herbs, organic herbs.
Good lad. All last. I'm not making any assumptions.
There is a discount code for our Patreon supporters on his OnlyFans.
Exactly. So next week, lads, we are doing the last of the Between the Cracks episodes. So the real bottom of the barrel stuff that actually was never even recorded on this list. So get your thinking ears all ready.
Got to review all the napkins.
Exactly. Well, it's been a delight, been a pleasure. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for dropping by. And
thank you, Brendan. It's nice to be here. Good to see you.
Very welcome to come back anytime. Every week, actually.
Thank you
get rid of
very much.
Ezra. You can come back every week. Bye.
Well, I don't mind being consigned to the dustbin. It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, if that's the way it goes in the context of the show. So.
Okie dokie. See you later. Bye, everyone.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Take care. All right. Hey, see you.